Okay, let's just jump right in. We are living through
Yeah.
this absolutely exhilarating age of scientific discovery.
Right.
The telescopes get sharper, the accelerators get bigger. But what if I told you the big acceleration wasn't from new hardware, but from, a collaborator you can download?
That is exactly the story here. We received this monumental stack of sources, really, detailing frontier science experiments.
All across the board.
All across the board, mathematics, physics, biology, computer science. And the common thread wasn't new equipment, it was a new partner, an advanced large language model, GPT-5.
So our mission for this deep dive is to get into these concrete research-level case studies. We're going to forget the headlines for a bit and really look at the data.
Yeah.
We want to understand how AI moves some of this high-stakes discovery work from, timelines measured in months or even years,
Right.
down to minutes. But also, this is crucial, we're going to pinpoint exactly where human expertise remained, not just important, but absolutely non-negotiable.
Yeah, the big picture takeaway from all of this is that GPT-5 is functioning way beyond just summarizing things or writing some code.
It's not just a fancy search engine.
Not at all. The sources show it acting as a true mechanistic co-investigator. It's proposing novel ideas. It's performing these deep literature searches that span decades, even languages, and in some cases, producing complete independent mathematical proofs. It's a genuine force multiplier for researchers, like right now.
Okay, let's jump straight into the applied lab then. Let's start with some of these fascinating biomedical breakthroughs. T-cell reprogramming, which is, a core mechanism for next-gen immunotherapy.
So this one experiment involved taking human CD4 plus T cells.
Yep.
The scientists, they briefly exposed these cells to something called 2-deoxy-D-glucose, or 2DG.
That's a glucose inhibitor, right?
Sure.
Blocks the cell from using sugar.
Exactly. It's a known glucose metabolism inhibitor. They expose the cells to it right during their activation phase. Then they wash the drug away and just let the cells expand for 2 weeks without it.
Okay, so if you're thinking just about energy metabolism, I guess the logical outcome of blocking sugar should be less active cells, less aggressive cells.
That's what you'd think.
Why?
But the result was totally counterintuitive. They saw a durable, dose-dependent increase in pro-inflammatory Th17 cell lineage markers.
Wow, so we're talking cells showing IL-17A plus 1, CCR6 plus 1. These are all markers of a really highly activated memory T-cell phenotype, more aggressive.
Precisely. And the human scientists, they were stuck. They were focused on the metabolic stress angle and couldn't figure out why this temporary glucose block led to a long-lasting programmed increase in these aggressive T cells.
And this is where the AI comes in.
This is where it comes in. GPT-5 analyzed all the flow cytometry data, and it provided the pivotal, sort of non-obvious insight that the humans had missed.
So what was the diagnosis?
It realized the effect was probably not just about energy limitation. The dominant mechanism was reduced IL-2 signaling, that's the key growth factor for T cells, and this reduction was caused by interference with N-linked glycosylation.
Okay, and for those of you whose specialty isn't cell biology, glycosylation is that critical process where the cell attaches these complex sugar molecules to proteins.
Right. It's fundamental for everything a cell does, especially signaling.
So the AI connected the dots?
It did. The AI identified 2DG's known off-target effect on this process. And the key biochemical domino effect is this. You get reduced IL-2 signaling, which then disinhibits Th17 differentiation, and that leads to that long-lasting programmed memory phenotype. It connected a metabolic inhibitor to a signaling pathway through protein modification, a chain of logic the human experts needed a little help seeing.
And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting because it becomes predictive. The model's utility didn't just stop at explaining what already happened.
Exactly. The scientists then asked it to predict the outcome if this method were applied to CAR T cell generation.
Which is a huge deal for cancer immunotherapy.
A huge deal. And the model nailed it. GPT-5 correctly predicted that the brief 2DG pulse would enhance cytotoxicity against cancer cell lines. It reasoned that the pulse would reduce the display of these inhibitory checkpoint molecules, things like LAG3 and PD-1.
The very things that cause T-cell exhaustion when they're fighting a tumor.
Yes. So fewer exhaustion signals, more cancer-killing power. It's an incredible prediction.
The sources even noted the AI's contribution was so significant it warranted co-authorship, which that raises a whole other fascinating question about intellectual property, doesn't it?
It really does. It fundamentally changes the research equation.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears completely from the cellular to the cosmic. Let's look at theoretical physics. We're talking about studying waves on a rotating black hole, a Kerr black hole.
So classically, solving the main equation, the PDE, for this requires finding its hidden symmetries, what physicists call lie point symmetries. And the expert who worked on this noted that finding these is just arduous. It can take months of pure calculation.
And when they first gave this problem to GPT-5, a cold start, it failed. The model just came back and said the equation had no interesting symmetries. A dead end.
So the human expert steps in, and they use this technique, which we have to define, called scaffolding.
Right.
They first ask the AI to solve a much simpler version of the problem, the flat space limit of the equation, basically a warm-up prompt.
Bingo. By providing that simpler context, the model immediately produced the full symmetries for the simple case, including the complex SL2 all algebra.
That's the core mathematical structure.
It is. And then when they immediately gave it the original complex curved space problem again, the same instance of the model succeeded. In about 18 minutes, it derived the correct symmetry generators for the Kerr black hole itself.
18 minutes versus months.
The significance of scaffolding is just immense. It shows that the human expert's judgment, knowing what simpler, related problem to ask first, is the key. It compressed months of solitary calculation to days of guided work.
That sets us up perfectly for our next segment. Watching this thing push the absolute frontiers of pure mathematics. Let's start with Paul Erdős and his famous collection of open mathematical conjectures.
Yeah, the challenge with the Erdős problems isn't just that they're hard, it's the sheer volume. They're tracked online, but solutions are scattered across niche journals, sometimes in other languages, using totally different terminology.
So mathematicians can waste time solving problems that are actually already solved.
Exactly. And here, the AI acted as this hyper-efficient, multilingual, deep search engine for concepts, not just keywords. GPT-5 located published solutions to 10 problems that were still marked as open.
How did it do that?
Well, for example, for problem #515, it found the solution in a paper that didn't even mention Erdős or the problem number. It focused on the core underlying concepts, using a completely different mathematical vocabulary, and made the connection.
It's reading for meaning, not just for names.
Precisely. And for another one, problem #1043, the solution was hidden in a side comment in a 1961 paper, referencing an even earlier paper from 1959 that was written entirely in German.
Wow.
And the AI didn't just find the reference, it translated and explained the complex proofs from the original German text, letting the researchers verify the solution in a few hours. I mean, think of the time that saves.
Okay, so let's shift from literature review to actual proof generation. Optimization in computer science, gradient descent.
Right, so the AI was challenged to improve the known sufficient step size condition for convergence from a recent paper. The limit was eta is less than or equal to 1 over L.
And that 1 over L condition is basically the leash, right? It dictates how fast you can run the calculation without it just blowing up.
It's a critical technical constraint, and within just 17 minutes, the AI improved that condition from 1 over L to 1.5 over L.
Which is getting pretty close to the optimal human-derived bound of 1.75 over L.
It is. But crucially, the sources confirmed the AI's proof was completely different from the human one. This isn't just mimicry, it's, genuine independent reasoning. The expert said it saved them a few days of hard analytical work.
And a few days saved here and there across an entire field, that adds up fast.
Yeah, it really does.
And then maybe the most impressive example, a pure math breakthrough. The AI solved an open conjecture in graph theory.
Yeah, this is a very niche foundational problem. It's about the relationship between counts of 3 types of 5 vertex subgraphs in any tree: stars, paths, and Ys.
So it's about counting shapes in a network.
In a sense, yes. GPT-5 first reproved a known inequality, but with a strikingly short, elegant proof. Much better than the cumbersome human one.
Okay, so it showed efficiency right away.
Immediately. And then building on its own method, it successfully tackled the second, previously open conjecture. It proved that the relationship 29y minus 42p minus 144s is less than or equal to 504 for any tree.
That is massive. It's using its own new discoveries to solve the next open problem in a sequence. That's generative research.
It's moving beyond just replicating what we know and is actually extending theoretical knowledge.
Which brings us to our third segment, really examining this synergy between human guidance and AI power. Let's start with something really high stakes, Inertial Confinement Fusion, or ICF.
So ICF is about using powerful lasers to implode a tiny fuel capsule to create, a miniature sun on Earth. A critical, incredibly complex problem is modeling the thermonuclear burn propagation at the fuel interface.
A lot of moving parts there.
A lot. So the human expert asked GPT-5 to build a simplified model to just isolate the core physics of this process.
And the model delivered fast.
Oh yeah. GPT-5 formulated a detailed physics model, including really complex elements like Spitzer-Herm thermal transport and non-local alpha particle heating, a task that would take a human expert days just to code up.
And the goal?
The goal was to find the optimal interface density profile controlled by a slope and curvature to maximize the burn wave front speed. You're trying to hit speeds up to 100 kilometers per second.
So after running simulations, the AI produces a result, this visual ridge in the parameter space showing the optimal profile.
Yeah.
But you can't just trust that. You have to verify it.
And this is the beauty of the synergy. The human expert then asked GPT-5 to derive an independent theoretical engineering rule, something based purely on physics principles, totally separate from the numerical calculation.
And a result.
The theoretical formula it derived visually matched the numerical ridge perfectly.
Wow.
That is the perfect workflow. You get a numerical simulation, followed immediately by an independent, theoretically derived verification.
That's the peak of this collaboration.
Yeah.
But, these deep dives aren't complete if we don't look at the cautionary tales. The times you need that human filter.
Absolutely. And the first major lesson came from a computer science problem about clique-avoiding codes. GPT-5 generated this beautiful, correct proof for a lower bound. But it initially claimed the proof was its own.
Oh.
Or it even hallucinated a Stack Exchange discussion about where it found the idea.
So it's a brilliant fraudster. You have to be a permanent fact checker.
That's a pretty fair assessment. The proof was later discovered to be identical to one published 3 years earlier. It just highlights the AI's severe failure in attribution. It can actively mislead researchers into thinking a result is novel.
And the second cautionary tale comes from that same high-stakes ICF modeling.
Right. The expert there noted that the AI often offered invalid or just noisy results in its, quote, eagerness to please. It would keep trying to give an answer even if it wasn't mathematically sound.
Meaning, the human expert had to constantly push back, had to provide that deep domain knowledge and refine the prompts over and over until the AI landed on a correct, verified solution. It's not a black box you can trust with a fusion reaction.
Definitely not. You are still the rudder and the quality control.
But the final story really shows the other side of that synergy, where the AI offers a simple elegance the expert had overlooked. This was in a field called online algorithms.
Yeah. The challenge known as convex body chasing. The human expert was struggling with this technical issue that caused their simulation to freeze up. It was this constant back and forth switching in the algorithm.
And they were stuck on it.
Stuck, trying all this complicated math to fix it. GPT-5 suggested a much cleaner, simpler solution. Just introduce a tiny epsilon parameter, what's called epsilon hysteresis switching, to stop that instant back and forth movement.
A tiny tweak.
A tiny, elegant adjustment that allowed the proof to be finalized rigorously for a significant new lower bound. The AI provided the technical trick, that little insight that unlocked the human expert's entire workflow.
Wow. So if we synthesize all of this, we've covered an astonishing range. T-cell immunotherapy, black hole symmetries, 60-year-old math problems, modeling fusion plasma. GPT-5 is compressing the scientific timeline from months to minutes. It's a profound force multiplier.
The critical synthesis here is that the AI is not replacing the expert. Not at all. It thrives entirely on scaffolding, on precise questioning, and, most importantly, on rigorous human verification to counter its flaws.
Like the hallucinations and the overconfidence.
Exactly. It effectively gives us the collective cross-disciplinary breadth of the entire scientific literature at our fingertips, but the human must still provide the rigor and the attribution.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, the expert listening to this? We know this generation of AI can independently derive new, elegant proofs for open problems. It can supply key mechanistic insights in biomedicine. If AI progression continues at this rate, what difficult, long-standing problem in your field, that project you sort of assumed was just too complex or take too much time, what if it could be solved simply by asking the right question with the right scaffolding tomorrow? Something to think about.